In the summer of 2014, the redwoods stood silent, ancient and indifferent to the disappearances that would follow. Camp Sierra Pines was the kind of place parents trusted. Tucked deep in Northern California, the camp was surrounded by wilderness, so dense that cell phone reception dropped half a mile from the entrance. The trees soared like cathedral pillars, the air smelled of pine and damp soil, and the cabins were old enough to creak when the wind shifted. For decades, it had been a haven for kids seeking something pure: campfires, sing-alongs, hikes to waterfalls, and secret whispers in bunk beds. On July 23, 2014, 4 girls left Cabin 7 for a morning hike. They were laughing, arms looped around each other, stepping onto a familiar trail that looped behind the camp's boundary fence and past a grove of Parson Jones redwoods. A counselor had seen them near the edge of the field at 10:17 a.m., just before heading to the arts tent. By lunchtime, the girls hadn't returned. By 1 p.m., counselors began searching. By 4 p.m., the sheriff's office had been called. Their names were Chloe Moore, Claire Owens, Maya Desai, and Juliet Banks, all between 12 and 13, all full of light. That day, they vanished without a trace. Asterisk asterisk by the 3rd day of the search. Every available officer in Sierra County was on the ground. Helicopters scanned the tree canopy. Volunteers formed human chains across the trails. Cadaver dogs were flown in from 3 states, but nothing surfaced. No footprints, no broken twigs, no scattered gear, no discarded clothing. The trail ended. In silence, as though the forest had swallowed them whole, the case became national within a week. Headlines called them the Camp Girls, Candlelight. Vigils flickered across small towns and cities. The parents were thrust onto morning talk shows, hollow-eyed and clinging to each other for support. Lena Moore, Chloe's older sister by 2 years, stayed home from school that fall. She couldn't stand the way people whispered when she walked the halls. Couldn't bear how they talked about closure when no one had found bodies. Investigators didn't give up, but time dragged everything toward cold. By 2016, Case 14-07-3 had its own shelf in the records room, thick with maps, reports, tips, and false leads, until the night a call came in. A voice shaking on the line, my husband. When he's involved in the camp girl's disappearance, the line went dead. But something shifted. Asterisk asterisk Sergeant Tom Heller was a man built on stubborn persistence. He had been first on site in 2014, had walked every trail with dogs and maps, and had sat with crying parents, promising to find answers. When the call came through dispatch, flagged under the old case file number, his heart didn't leap. It clenched at first. He didn't want to believe it. Too many hoaxes had come before. But the woman's voice, it wasn't the rambling of someone chasing attention. It was low, controlled, afraid. She said he has a bunker, the dispatcher told him, forwarding the audio. Heller listened once, then again. He printed a fresh map, pulled out the old grid overlays, and started marking search zones they hadn't checked thoroughly, places where a bunker could hide. He mobilized a small team. Deputy Carla Mendoza, who had worked the original case and knew the terrain like the back of her hand, forensics tech, a backup unit, and Lena Moore, who wasn't supposed to be there but insisted. My sister's still out there, she said. You'll need someone who remembers every detail. Heller didn't want her along, but something in her voice, calm, unblinking, reminded him of the caller. So he agreed. Asterisk asterisk the camp was a ghost town now, shuttered, weather-beaten. The old welcome sign still hung in place, its yellow paint flaking into pale wood. Cabin doors dangled from broken hinges. Weeds overtook gravel paths. The forest crept closer than it ever had before, reclaiming what had once been cleared. Mendoza led the way past the cabins, pointing to the trail where the girls had last been seen. Start here, she said. We hit every inch back then. If a structure was concealed, we could have walked over it a dozen times and never known. They moved slow, no talking. Yes. Just the crunch of boots over pine needles and the rustle of disturbed underbrush. Heller kept scanning the forest floor, looking for patterns. Anything too flat. Too smooth, Lena spotted it first. A patch of earth that didn't belong, no leaves, no roots, just a false calm. She crouched and brushed away the top layer. Glass. She whispered, broken bits. Mendoza marked it on GPS. Keep going. A few minutes later they saw it. A square panel of metal, just visible under brush and branches. Not rusted, not ancient. A latch sat recessed into one side. It was a hatch flush with the ground. Jesus, Mendoza muttered. Heller crouched beside it. He pressed his palm against the steel. Cold, real, vibrating faintly with a mechanical. She wasn't lying, he said. We found the bunker. Asterisk, asterisk. They waited for backup. Forensics arrived with floodlights. Yellow crime scene tape stretched between trees like the boundary of a crime no one wanted to find. A deputy brought a crowbar. Other readied body cams. The hatch creaked as they pried it open. Cold air belched from the opening, a mix of damp concrete, gasoline, and something sour underneath. A ladder descended into shadow. The hum of a generator pulsed louder below. 2 deputies went first, weapons drawn. Mendoza followed, and Heller. The air inside was thick, pressing against lungs. The walls were lined with supplies, canned goods, water, batteries, DVDs. But it was the 4 cots that stopped them cold. Each one with sheets, pillows, shoes arranged neatly at the foot. Girls' shoes. Lena reached the bottom of the ladder. She didn't wait for permission. She stepped inside, her eyes scanning every cot, every shirt, every scuffed sneaker, till she saw the blue canvas pair with frayed laces. Chloe's. She dropped to her knees. Then Mendoza found the note. Tucked beneath one cot. We can't see the sky. Please tell my mom I'm sorry. Written in a young, shaky hand. Lena knew the writing. Chloe's. Her throat closed. Heller radioed in. Structure confirmed. Belongings match Sierra Pines case. Possible long-term holding site. Request full evidence unit. No one spoke. The silence was thicker than the air, but then Ruiz. A detective with the county's major crimes unit pulled a calendar from the wall. Dates marked in X's. The last just 3 days ago. Someone was here recently, he said. This isn't history. It's active. Asterisk, asterisk. They pressed deeper. A second door. It's locked. Reinforced. They breached it with a battering ram. What they found inside twisted everyone's stomachs. 3 plastic bins lined one wall. Inside, clothing, toys, blankets. One bin contained what looked like refuse, but Ruiz closed it quickly. Evidence team will process that. No one asked. There was a desk with a logbook. Dated entries every day for 2 years. Written in block letters, matter of fact, tracking food deliveries, mood swings, when the vent needed repair. Day 702. Girls upset. Told them they'll go outside soon. Entry read like a manager tracking shipments. Not a man holding 4 girls underground, in a locked cabinet, cleaning supplies, bleach, zip ties, heavy-duty gloves, and on a metal shelf for backpacks. Camp Sierra Pines stitched into each one. Lena saw one with a friendship bracelet tied to. The zipper .khloe single quotes. She touched it like it might disappear. The last item found was a photo. 4 girls standing in front of a cabin, smiling, arms slung around each other. Lena didn't cry. She just stared. We were almost home, she whispered. Asterisk, asterisk outside. Deputies found tire tracks. Fresh, deep, leading away from the site. He's close, Heller said. Move fast. They followed the tracks to a shed deep in the forest. Inside, they found tools, rope, duct tape, a Polaroid photo on the wall, a man, late 40s, square-jawed, standing beside a much younger woman, Ruiz. Pointed. That's the wife. The caller. Below the photo, a notebook with a chilling line. August 14th. Move her before the frost. Not them. Singular. She was alive. 3 months ago, Mendoza said, that's when they heard it, the rumble of an engine. A green pickup, dented, barreling toward the shed. The driver saw them, sped up, tried to flee. The chase was fast, brutal. Dirt sprayed, trees blurred. The truck swerved through a fork in the road and vanished, but not before they saw his face. Mark Calloway, and in his truck, looped around the gear shift. A pink hair tie with a single blonde hair. KOS, asterisk, asterisk. Lena sat in the back seat, heart pounding. Heller ordered her to stay behind. But she heard the radio chatter. Miller's Creek, an old hunting cabin, another possible site. They found the wife in a motel later that night, her name Erin Calloway. 32, no record. She trembled when they arrived but opened the door. I didn't know at first, she said. I thought it was drugs, but then I heard them crying. I found the shoe. I heard them whispering. She told them about the second site. If you don't get there first, he'll move her again. Asterisk, asterisk. The next morning, the team rolled out. Miller's Creek was quiet. The rain had stopped. The forest hung thick with mist. They approached the cabin. On foot, traps lined the path. Tripwires, spikes, shotgun rigs. But they made it. The cabin was small. The lamp was lit, the food on the table still warm, and on the cot, a pink sweater. Chloe's footprints led out back. One large, one small. They followed. Then they saw them. A man dragging a girl through the trees. She stumbled. He shouted. Deputies closed in. When he turned to run, she stamped his boot. He lost balance. Heller tackled him. Girl was safe, Claire, she whispered. My name's Claire. Lena came running, tears finally falling. Where's Chloe? Claire's eyes dropped. He moved her. Months ago. The search wasn't over, but one girl was back, and the story. The one buried. They booked Mark Calloway into county holding just before midnight. His face was expressionless, jaw tight, clothes soaked from the creek, cuff marks red against his wrists. He hadn't said a word since they pulled him from the water. Didn't scream, didn't protest, just stared at the deputies like he was memorizing their faces in the adjacent building. The girl Claire Owens was wrapped in 3 layers of blankets, sitting on an exam table in the emergency medical trailer set. Up outside the sheriff's department, her vitals were steady, dehydrated, thin. Bruises, old and new, on her arms, knees, shoulder.
Out.
But her eyes, those eyes didn't stop moving, tracking every sound. Every footstep in the hall outside. When Lena Moore entered the room, Claire went. Still, Lena whispered, You're not my sister. Claire nodded. I know her. That was all it took to break the dam. Asterisk, asterisk. The interview room where Claire sat was designed for comfort-soothing colors, soft light, no visible recording devices. A social worker sat beside her, gently guiding questions. A female detective took notes by hand. When was the last time you saw Chloe? Claire swallowed hard. Her voice was raspy. Winter. Maybe January. He said she wasn't eating right. He said she was too weak for the basement ladder. What happened? I don't know. He took her in the truck. He told me later she'd gone somewhere with more air, that she'd see the sky again. But I don't think that was true. She wiped her nose with a tissue. Her hand trembled. He moved us a lot, she said. Whenever police got close or when the cameras picked up lights at night. Cameras? Claire nodded. In the trees, hidden. I only knew because one blinked when I stepped too far from the cabin. What did he do when that happened? Claire didn't answer, but the flinch in her shoulders said everything. Asterisk, asterisk. In another wing of the building, Sergeant Heller sat across from Mark Calloway. The room was cold on purpose. One chair, one table. No windows. Just a camera in the corner and a microphone built into the desk. On the table, a clear evidence bag containing the pink hair tie, another with Chloe's blue sneakers, and another with the calendar pulled from the bunker wall X marks still. Visible, the last dated 3 days before the call. Mark glanced at them, then looked up. You won't get all of them back, he said flatly. Heller didn't blink. Where are the others? Mark smiled, slow and sour. I'll trade. No trades. And I guess they'll stay wherever I left them. He leaned back in his chair, the chain on his cuffed ankle clinking softly. You know, he said, almost conversational, you spent a lot of time chasing ghosts. That first year, you passed within 20 feet of that hatch. I heard your boots. Heard? The radios? You were watching, of course. You think I didn't prepare? Prepared men don't leave pink sweaters and trap wires, Mark shrugged. Prepared men know the woods better than city boys with maps. Heller leaned in. You're done. We have Claire. We have your wife's statement. And we found the logbook. For the first time, Mark's expression changed just slightly. My wife talked. She told us everything. Mark's eyes narrowed. Lying bitch. Heller's voice dropped low. Tell me where Chloe is. I'll tell you, Mark said, when I see her. Who? Erin. My wife. Face to face. Heller pushed back from the table. Not a chance. *** Ruiz stood behind the glass, arms folded, watching the exchange. In another room, agents from the FBI were reviewing the case files, examining maps and cross-referencing every abandoned structure in a 50-mile radius. The profiler in the corner had been quiet for most of the briefing. Now she spoke up. He didn't kill them all, she said. Everyone turned. He's a keeper, she said. Not a destroyer. That calendar, it's a system. The logbook, it was managing them like inventory. Logistics. That's not a spree killer. That's a collector. Mendoza crossed her arms. So what does that mean? It means they're not bodies to him, the profiler said. They're proof. Evidence of control. He kept them, hid them, probably rotated between sites. And he's still hiding something. *** that night, Heller returned to the bunker. The forensics team was still cataloging items. He stepped down the ladder slowly, each rung groaning under his weight. The air still smelled of dust and rust. The cots were untouched. The shoes still lined up like soldiers. The note still pinned in plastic evidence wrap. We can't see the sky. Please tell my mom I'm sorry. He moved to the back room, past the bins and supplies, to the desk where the spiral notebook had been found. He flipped back to day 9. 1, crying at night. Others quiet. Day 30 added more water jugs. We'll need another run to town. Day 72, new site not ready yet. Keep lights off. Noise too loud. He snapped a photo of every page, then stopped at one that wasn't logged like the others. Just a name, Claire. Compliant. Juliet, anxious. Maya, defiant. Chloe watching. Watching it made his skin crawl. He shut the book. ***, Lena sat in the hospital room. Claire asleep in the bed beside her. The girl hadn't let go of her hand in hours. At one point, Claire stirred, whispered something in her sleep. Lena leaned in. Tell Mom. Sorry. Her voice trailed off. Lena's throat tightened. She didn't sleep that night. She just watched. The monitors blink in slow, steady rhythm, trying to hold on to the fact that at least one of the girls was still breathing. ***. The next morning. Heller brought the team together. We're changing approach, he said. We treat this like a living case, not a cold one.
Ow.
Ruiz nodded. Erin's already in protective custody. She's willing to talk again. And if she's right, Heller said, pointing to a fresh map, there's a second location, somewhere remote, an old hunting cabin. Where? She said north. Of the ridge, near an old quarry road. Close to a creek. Mendoza frowned. There's 100 places like that. She marked it. He held up a photocopied sketch rough. But enough. We go today. Full team. Ruiz raised an eyebrow. What if he's already moved her again? Then we follow the trail. ***. The convoy rolled out at noon. Lena rode in the second SUV, against orders. Heller had told her no. She didn't listen. She's my sister, she said. No one argued. After that, the road was narrow, the forest pressing in. Rain had turned the dirt soft, slick. When the lead SUV stopped, they switched to foot. Tripwires again. Crude traps, but real. Shotgun rig disabled. Pitfall with stakes, dismantled, and then through the trees a cabin. Small, old, sloped roof, one chimney. No smoke. They approached silently. Mendoza raised her hand. Prints in the mud. One Small, fresh, she whispered. Inside the room was warm, lamp still on, plate with half-eaten food. A cot with tangled blankets, and by the cot another pair of blue canvas sneakers. Lena saw them through the doorway. Her knees buckled. "She's here," she whispered. "She's close." The footprints led out back. Into the trees they followed, and then they saw them. Mark Calloway, dragging a girl through the underbrush. She stumbled. He pulled harder. Deputies closed in. Mendoza cut him off from the side. Ruiz came in from the right. Heller surged forward. The girl twisted, kicked, broke free. Mark reached for a knife. Heller tackled him. This time it was over in seconds. The cuffs snapped tight, and Chloe Moore collapsed into her sister's arms. Asterisk. Asterisk. But it wasn't over. Not completely. 2 girls were still missing: Juliet Banks, Maya Desai, and the notebook on the last page had a final entry. Day 731. Split them. Rotate every 3 weeks. No patterns. No mistakes, which meant there were more places, more traps, or secrets. Mark Calloway might be in a cell, but his nightmare wasn't finished yet, and neither was the search. The rescue of Chloe Moore shifted the tone inside Sierra County like the first breath after being underwater. The sheriff's department didn't celebrate, not publicly. They didn't hang a banner, didn't release balloons, didn't call it a victory, because it wasn't. Not yet. Claire was back. Chloe was back, but Maya Desai and Juliet Banks were still missing. 2 out of 4. Half the truth. Half the nightmare. Mark Calloway had been captured, but that didn't mean the case was closed. It meant something worse. He'd planned farther than anyone thought, and somewhere, if he hadn't already, done the unthinkable. 2 girls were still alive, waiting for a door to open, a voice to break the silence, waiting to be found. Asterisk, asterisk, the interrogation room was cold again. Mark sat with his wrists cuffed in front of him, this time in a thicker jacket. His hair was damped from the rain. His boots had been taken. Socks dirty. He still hadn't asked for a lawyer. Heller entered the room with a folder and a thermos of coffee. He didn't speak right away. He set the thermos down, flipped open the folder, and laid out 2 photos. 1. A photograph of Chloe, taken by medics after her rescue. 2. A photo from the evidence board, showing Juliet Banks and Maya Desai at Camp Sierra Pines, arms around each other's shoulders, wide grins under the summer sun. Mark didn't look at the photos. He looked at the thermos. "I want real coffee," he said. Heller poured a cup and slid it across the table. "You're stalling," Heller said. Mark shrugged. "I've got time." "Do they?" No answer. Heller leaned forward. He had a second sight. A hunting cabin. "We found it. The traps, the wiring, the girl. You moved Chloe there just weeks ago, and before that, where were the others?" Mark ran a hand over his jaw. "You don't get it. Explain it. I built something they couldn't take away. Not the parents, not the cops, not the system. Mine." "You built a prison?" Mark looked up. For a second, there was fire in his eyes. "I built a life for them," he said. "Structure, order, clean food, schedules. Better than the chaos they were born into. Ask them. They'll tell you." Heller wanted to break the table in half. "You want to be the reason they never see their families again?" Mark grinned. "I want to be the reason they survive." Asterisk, asterisk. Chloe Moore's hospital room was quiet, dimly lit with a single reading lamp near the bed. Lena sat in a chair by the window, watching her sister sleep. Chloe had woken up twice since the rescue. The first time, she asked where Claire was. The second, she asked for water. Now her eyes fluttered open again. "Lena." "I'm here," Lena said, rushing to her side. Chloe tried to sit up, winced. "Did you find the others?" Lena paused. "Not yet." Chloe blinked slowly. "Then I have to tell you something." Asterisk, asterisk. Detectives Ruiz and Mendoza arrived within 30 minutes. They didn't bring a notepad. They brought a voice recorder and a box of tissues. Chloe's voice was faint, but steady. He had 3 places, not 2. Called them zones. "What do you mean?" He'd say Zone A is full. or we're rotating to Zone C this week. I didn't know where they were, but the third place, it was colder. Smelled different, like gasoline and rust. Juliet hated it. She cried all the time. Did he ever tell you how far apart they were? Chloe shook her head. We always traveled at night. Sometimes in the back of the truck, sometimes blindfolded. But Zone C, he only went there every few weeks. Ruiz's eyes narrowed. Why so infrequently? He said it was harder to keep clean. The water was no good. Said Maya was being difficult. Did he leave you there with her? No. Chloe's voice broke. He said she didn't want company anymore. The room went quiet. Do you think Maya's still alive? Don't. No. Ruiz glanced at Mendoza. They didn't need a psychologist to explain what Chloe wasn't saying. If Zone C was where the girls went when they misbehaved, and Juliet and Maya had likely both been there, and Mark Calloway hadn't visited. In weeks *** later that evening, Ruiz reviewed aerial surveillance from the county database. There were dozens of possible sites: off-grid cabins, old ranger outposts, fire watch towers, abandoned prospecting camps. Most were within 50 miles of Sierra Pines, but only a few matched the details Chloe had described. Distance, fuel, smell, water contamination. One stood out. An old ranger facility, decommissioned after the 2008 fires. Located near Deep Hollow Creek, the reports from back then described it as structurally intact but partially submerged due to rising groundwater. A poor candidate for reuse. Left to rot. Ruiz leaned forward. That's it. Mendoza frowned. The place with the flooded basement? Exactly, she hesitated. That's Zone C. He nodded. Let's find out. Asterisk. The next morning. A team of 6 approached Deep Hollow on foot. They parked miles out, camouflaged their vehicles, and made their way through thick brush. It was colder here, wetter, the kind of terrain where everything stayed damp and the ground whispered underfoot as they neared the facility. Mendoza raised a hand. Snare, she said, pointing to a tripwire set just below ankle height. They disarmed it carefully, moved past, and then just like before they found the signs. A shed with a rusted generator, a structure half hidden by ivy and vines. Matched another one, this one thicker. Cruder, bolted with metal slabs. As if someone had been afraid of what might try to get out. Ruiz signaled to the team, we go in slow. Assume it's rigged. Assume someone's inside. Heller stood at the back of the team, his radio pressed to his vest. Let's go. Lay. Breached the hatch in under 3 minutes. The interior air hit them like a slap heavy with mold, mildew, and a metallic temps that stuck in the nose. The stairs were slick, the lighting dim. Emergency lights still ran along the floor, low and red. It was colder here, silent in a way that felt wrong. The chamber was wide, concrete walls, rows of plastic bins, a portable toilet, a cot, a heater. Long dead, and in the center of the room a sleeping bag. Curled inside it, unmoving, was a girl. They rushed forward, pulled back the fabric. Juliet Banks, eyes open, breathing shallow, but alive. She flinched at the light. Her lips were cracked, her fingers swollen. Mendoza dropped to her knees beside her. We've got you, sweetie. You're okay. You're safe now. Juliet blinked. A tear rolled down her cheek. Then she whispered, Is Maya here? Asterisk. They searched every inch of the chamber, every corner, every bin, every crack. But Maya Desai wasn't there. They found a second cot abandoned, a blanket still crumpled, a water bottle half empty, and a blood stain on the floor. Small, dried, weeks old, no body, no sign of a struggle. Just silence. Juliet didn't know where she'd gone. She stopped talking. She whispered in the medic van IV line in her arm. He got angry. He said she needed to be relocated. That she was. Wasting resources, she swallowed hard. Then she was gone. Asterisk, back at the station. Heller sat across from Mark Calloway again. This time, he didn't bring photos. He brought one item, a lock of hair found under the cot. Long, dark, tied with a blue rubber band. Mark's eyes flicked toward it. Maya said, quiet, almost reverent. Where is she? Closed his eyes. For the first time, his voice was soft. She never wanted to be there. Never accepted it. Thought she was stronger than the others. Where is she? She ran when? 2 months ago? Before I moved the others? Where? Mark smiled. You'll never find her. Asterisk, asterisk, but they would, because Maya had left something behind, a trail, a choice, and the forest would not keep its secrets forever. The following morning, the forest was thick with fog, the kind that clings to your clothes, softens the sound of footsteps, and makes everything look slightly wrong. Like the woods were holding their breath, they'd pulled Juliet Banks from deep, hollow alive, barely. She was in a hospital now under observation, surrounded by pediatric trauma staff, who spoke in whispers and moved slowly around her like any sharp motion might break her. She hadn't said much more after the first ambulance ride. Just one name. Maya, the last missing girl, now the only one unaccounted for. But they weren't assuming the worst. Not yet. Because something strange had happened. In the far corner of the deep hollow bunker, tucked behind a rusted water tank Ruiz had found, a splintered drawer from an old wooden desk. It looked like trash at first. But inside, layered beneath yellowed paper and bits of lint, were two things. A torn strip of cloth, blue, cotton, with initials sewn into the corner, MD, and a piece of bark, strange. A piece of tree bark, rough, and snapped, but clearly tampered with. Someone had scratched letters into the underside, crude, jagged, and rushed. Walk north, marked tree, danger. It wasn't just a clue. It was a message. And it meant Maya might have escaped on her own. Asterisk, asterisk. Heller stood at the whiteboard in the sheriff's incident room, marker in hand, 3 fresh maps pinned side by side. The team had split Deep Hollow into quadrants, drawn from the presumed exit point of the girl's bunker. She says marked tree, Heller said, circling a patch just north of the facility. Somewhere in this half-mile radius. Could be dozens, Mendoza muttered, peering at the satellite. Images. Hundreds, Ruiz corrected. Unless she marked it in a way that wasn't obvious. Heller didn't look away from the board, but she carved the bark. Means she had a knife, Ruiz said. Or something sharp. Could mean she left more. Breadcrumbs. They all turned at once. Lena Moore stood in the doorway, still in yesterday's sweatshirt, a notebook in her hand. She looked tired. She hadn't gone home. She's smarter than he gave her credit for, Lena said. If Maya left one message, she might have left. More, but we're not going to find it from the air. You're not going out there, Heller said quickly. I wasn't asking for permission. Mendoza stepped forward. It's not safe. We just pulled 6 traps out of the ground near the last site. And Maya moved through that barefoot, Lena said. Or close to it. You think she made it out that far and didn't have a plan? Heller was about to argue again, but then something changed in his face. He tapped the marker against the map. Thoughtful. Quiet. She might have followed a water source. Ruiz nodded. Smart. Keeps you from circling. There's a dry creek bed here, Heller said, drawing a line with the marker. Now runs north-northwest out of the basin. If she was tracking it, he trailed off. Mendoza stepped up to mark it with a dot. Then she's somewhere near Raven's Cross. Asterisk, asterisk, Raven's Cross wasn't a town. Not really. It was a crumbling on a paper map. A place with no school, no gas station, just 2 winding roads and a handful of cabins built by seasonal hunters. Most were abandoned. A few were squatted in by hermits or drifters. Law enforcement rarely patrolled. It was hard to get a signal, harder to get a warrant. It was where you went to disappear, and it was where they believed Maya had gone. Asterisk, asterisk, the new search unit was formed. By 3 p.m. that day, a smaller, stealthier team with 2 K9 South tactical drones and 3 deputies with wilderness tracking. Certification, the plan. Follow the creek bed. Look for the marked tree. Move slow. Quiet. Lena Moore rode in the rear vehicle, flanked by Mendoza and a young female EMT. They had already gone through the motions of trying to keep her away. Then, they gave up. She's the only one Maya might trust, Ruiz had said. And she knows these girls better than we do. At mile 4, the vehicles stopped. They moved on foot. Asterisk, asterisk, it was quiet in the forest. The eerie kind of quiet that comes after too much violence. Lena walked behind the lead team, her eyes scanning. Everything: bark, leaves, ground cover, broken branches. At first, everything looked the same, but half a mile in, she stopped. "Wait," she said. The others turned, moved to the edge of a cedar grove, crouched and pointed. A tree, thin. Scratches deliberately arranged in a sideways triangle. Not initials. Not random. She looked at Ruiz. She was trying to build a pattern. He crouched beside her, fingers tracing the grooves. Same angle as the message on the bark. Then we're close. Asterisk, asterisk. They followed the pattern for another 300 yards. Then the trees changed. Pines gave way to a thick tangle of underbrush, and the creek bed curved sharply into a low gully. As they stepped into the hollow, the air shifted. Fresher, moist, and then movement. The canine handler raised a hand. "Scent," she whispered. "Human female." Lena's heart jumped. They followed the dog's lead through the gully, stepping carefully over rocks and loose dirt. And then, ahead, half buried in moss, a faded sleeping bag. Rolled next to it, an empty canteen, a pack of crackers, and a notebook. Ruiz opened it slowly. The pages were smudged with water, some unreadable, but others were clear. Day 1, north. Avoid. Open areas. Day 2, hear his truck. Waited it out. Stayed still. Day 3, no one's coming. Need to make them see me. Day 4, found tree. Scratched a message. Hoping. Day 5, still hiding. Don't trust light. Lena clutched the edge of the sleeping bag. She's still here. Asterisk, asterisk, the drone operator sent up a second unit, this one with thermal. The battery buzzed softly in the air as it drifted up above the canopy. 10 minutes passed. Then, a heat signature. East. 50 yards, the drone tech said. Movement, low profile, the team fanned out, weapons drawn, voices low, and then through the brush. Just beneath the gnarled root of an upturned tree, a pair of eyes, wide, hollow, watching Maya. Mendoza called gently. No answer. Lena stepped forward slowly. "It's Lena," she said, Chloe's sister.
Oh.
"I'm here. You're safe." The figure didn't move. Then slowly Maya Desai emerged from the brush, arms shaking, clothes shredded, ran across her temple. Her lips were cracked, but she was alive. The team surged forward. Blankets, water, medical gear. She didn't say a word, but she let them wrap her in warmth. She didn't resist when Lena sat beside her and took her hand. She didn't cry until someone whispered, "You made it." And then the forest echoed with the sound of a single sob that had been waiting 2 years to be heard. Asterisk, asterisk, back at the station. They called the parents first. The screams and tears and dropped phones were all captured on the call logs. Then came the press release. All for Sierra Pines girls recovered alive. It went viral within minutes. People flooded social media. Hashtag Camp Girls Live trended in 40 states. Photos went up. Claire's hospital bed, Juliet waving weakly from a window. Chloe hugging Lena under a blanket, Maya with a breathing mask. On and eyes closed, Mark Calloway saw the photos from his holding cell when asked to comment. He said nothing, just stared, then smiled, like it had all gone exactly to plan. Asterisk, asterisk. But it hadn't, because now, with all 4 girls alive, they had testimony, they had timelines, they had evidence, and they had Aaron Calloway, who finally was, ready to testify, not just against her husband, but against herself. The courtroom lights were harsh, too white, too clinical. Aaron Calloway sat at the defense table, hands folded in her lap. She wore a plain navy blouse, sleeves down to her wrists, collar high enough to hide the bruises that had once curled along. Her collarbone, her hair was pulled back neatly, her eyes forward. On the stand, she didn't cry. That was the part everyone commented on later, how she didn't shed a single tear as she described the bunker. The girls, the trap-rigged paths, the stifling quiet of a house that doubled as a prison. But Erin wasn't cold. She was emptied out, hollowed, like the guilt had scorched everything soft inside. Her, and left only what was necessary. The truth. And now, finally, she was ready to give it. I didn't know. At first. That was how she began. The courtroom was full, not of spectators, but law enforcement. The case had been sealed from the public, the trial closed door, only essential personnel allowed. The press had been given daily summaries outside, where cameras fought for every inch of sidewalk. Inside, it was silent. Erin looked down once, only once, then raised her eyes to meet the prosecutors. It started with small things. Locked doors. Nights away. When I asked, he said it was work. He always had a reason, and I wanted to believe it. Why? Because he wasn't always that way. Before we were married, Mark was steady, careful, quiet. But after his father died, he got darker, started building things. Projects in the woods, said he needed space. I thought maybe it was grief. When did you first become suspicious? Erin took a breath. The night I heard crying in the floorboards. It had been late summer 2014, a month after the girls vanished. She remembered it exactly. August 28th. Mark had returned home late, dirt on his boots, shirt soaked with sweat. Said he'd been working on the cabin, then he locked the basement from the inside. Always from the inside. She went to bed early, woke up thirsty, padded downstairs barefoot, and that's when she heard it. Not clearly, just faint echoes. It's the kind you convince yourself are the house settling. Except this wasn't creaking. It wasn't pipes. It was voices. Soft, afraid. She bent to the floor and pressed her ear to the tile. Someone was crying. Asterisk. I asked him the next morning, she said on the stand. He told me I was dreaming, said I'd always been jumpy. What? Did you do? I stopped asking. Why? Erin looked down again because I was scared of him. Asterisk. Over the next year, Mark grew more controlling. Her phone? Checked. Her car? Tracked. Her movement accounted for. She didn't even realize it was happening at first. Just one line at a time, one boundary redrawn. By the time she wanted to run, it was already too late. And still, she said nothing. The guilt of that soaked every word of her testimony. I should have gone to the police sooner. But he was always one step ahead, always watching. The only time I ever saw the girls was by accident, when he left the back of his truck open, and I saw the shoe. Asterisk. Erin broke down the entire system for investigators. The 3 sites. Zone A, the original bunker near the camp. Zone B, the hunting cabin near Miller's Creek. Zone C, Deep Hollow, the flooded ranger station. Each was rigged, secured. He rotated the girls between them based on behavior, discipline, mood. He thought he was building a colony. Erin said, a clean place, a new way of life. He called it the reset. They asked her what that meant. Erin's hands trembled. It meant the world was broken, and he was going to raise them the right way, away from it. Asterisk. Meanwhile, the girls were still recovering physically, emotionally, psychologically. They'd been placed in a trauma care program overseen by the state's best specialists. Not just hospitals, not just therapy, but full trauma-informed. Safe housing where they could control their space. All 4 were in the same facility now. Not a hospital. It's not a group home. But something built specifically for them. A secure place with therapists. Sensory-safe rooms, private gardens, and security staff trained to deal with long-term captivity. Claire had started drawing again. Juliet slept with the light on, but was eating 3 meals a day. Chloe wrote pages she didn't let anyone read. Maya barely spoke, but she walked every morning. Always the same loop. Always silent. They were alive. But survival, They were learning. It was only the beginning. Asterisk, asterisk, Detective Ruiz stood at the front of the briefing room. The whiteboard behind him lined with every known detail from the last 2 years. Photos, maps, calendars, bunker sketches, timelines, chain of custody charts. They'd arrested Mark. They had Aaron's statement. They had recovered the girls. But there was still one piece missing. The one no one had expected. Was Mark working alone? Asterisk, asterisk, we found receipts, Mendoza said. She was holding a manila folder labeled Cash Purchases 2015-2016. Hardware stores, she explained. Rural, off-the-grid places. Rope, solar panels, generator parts, canned goods. Okay, Ruiz said. Mark could have done that, but not the quantity, not the timestamps. She flipped open the file. August 5th, 2015, Mark's truck was parked in Ravens Cross from 3 o'clock to 4:30. The receipt? Time-stamped 3:12 p.m., but the store is 40 minutes away. Different person or an accomplice? Asterisk. Asterisk, that one. Word hung in the air like a foghorn. Accomplice. It had always been possible. The trap complexity. The logistics. The rotation between sites. Someone had to have known. Someone had to have helped. And now, the girls were starting to mention something else. A second man. Asterisk, asterisk. It came from Juliet first. Late at night, in the middle of a panic spiral. Her nurse called the on-site psychologist, and in between sobs and fragmented memories, she whispered something. There was another man. Asterisk, asterisk, Chloe confirmed it. She called him the quiet one. Said he didn't talk. Just showed up sometimes with Mark. Never stayed long. Always wore gloves. He never looked at us, she said. Like we were furniture. What did Mark call him? Chloe. Blinked. Uncle. Asterisk, asterisk, Ruiz paged through Mark's background again. Parents. Deceased. No siblings. No known extended family. But there was one anomaly. In 2003, Mark had worked construction in Yuba County. One of the project leads was a man named Dale Branner, a drifter who'd lived off the grid in his trailer, moved job to job, known to disappear for months, never arrested, never charged. But Dale had a cabin once, not far from Zone C, in his last known vehicle, a forest green pickup with a busted fender, same as the truck that escaped the first bunker raid. Asterisk, asterisk, the hunt wasn't over, Dale. Branner hadn't been seen in 6 months. And now, after all this time, it seemed the man known. Only his uncle might still be out there watching, waiting, and still holding secrets about what had happened in those woods. The storm came in fast that night. By midnight, the county road was flooded. Power flickered in 3 different towns. And dispatch was overwhelmed with calls about fallen trees, dead transformers, and 2 missing hikers from a trailhead near Devil's Hollow. But no one noticed the pickup. A forest green Dodge with 1 busted taillight and a passenger, window duct tape shut. It pulled into the rear lot of a shuttered diner just past mile marker 22 and vanished into the trees behind a weathered trail that hadn't been used in years. No license plate, no lights, no sound. By the time the storm reached full force, the truck and whoever was driving it was already gone. Asterisk, asterisk, at 5:11 the next morning. Ruiz's phone rang. Caller ID, private secure line. He was barely awake, still half dreaming of courtrooms and cracked bunkers. He picked up without thinking. Ruiz. The voice on the other end was female, controlled and familiar. Claire wants to talk. He sat up straight. Now she said she remembers something about what? A pause. The other man. Asterisk, asterisk. They met at the trauma center in Auburn. 3rd floor. Corner interview suite. Claire was seated cross-legged on a window bench, blanket over her lap, sketch pad in her hands. Her hair had grown out a little. Her voice was stronger. She kept calling him uncle, Claire said. He wasn't. Ruiz nodded slowly. Did he have a name? Claire thought for a long moment. Then no. But he smelled like gasoline. And he always wore a hat, green like the army. Didn't talk, but Mark would tell him things in code. What kind of code? Like 7's full, or rotation cleared. Once, he'd said set up a ghost run to Miller's Bend. Ruiz blinked. Miller's Bend was a trail system, narrow, dangerous. Closed after a landslide 4 years ago. He stood, turned to the two-way mirror. We need a drone over that bend today. Asterisk, asterisk by noon. 2 deputies and a drone pilot stood in the high grass above Miller's Bend. Watching the video feed from a small screen, most of what the drone picked up was storm-damaged downed trees. Water-soaked trails, rock slides, but one quadrant showed something different, an indentation in the slope. Not natural, a man-made cut, narrow and square, covered in brush, hidden door. The drone dropped altitude. There was a tire track. One, just one, old, distinct. Asterisk, asterisk, Mendoza and Ruiz led the entry team at dusk for deputies. 2 tactical dogs, no lights. The hatch was locked, but not heavily. No alarms. No tripwires. They breached fast. The tunnel was narrow, concrete, newer than the others. Only about 30 feet deep, no real furniture, just crates, and in one of them, phone parts. SIM cards, plastic baggies filled with flash drives. Ruiz opened one of the drives right there. On his tablet it was full of logs. Times, locations, names, dozens. Of entries, marked with code names Gerler 3, ROTC 1, ZA delivered. A long list of dates and initials. Mendoza stared. This wasn't just him keeping notes. This was tracking inventory, Ruiz said. And then he found a folder marked Phase 2 Expansion Drafts. Asterisk, asterisk, back at HQ. The entire task force assembled in the war room. The photos were pinned, maps marked. New connections drawn. Phase 2 wasn't a plan to take more girls. It was a guide, a system, a handbook on how to replicate what Mark Calloway had done. And it wasn't just written by him. There were 2 sets of handwriting. One matched the calendar from Zone A, the other. They didn't know yet. Asterisk, asterisk, Lena Moore sat across from Aaron. Calloway again. The 2 women hadn't spoken since the trial began. The meeting was off the record. No camera, no notes. Just one question. Who else helped him? Lena asked. Aaron didn't answer right away. You knew, Lena said. You knew someone else was coming and going. The pickups, supplies, the gaps in time. Aaron didn't deny it. He called him the builder, she said quietly. Said he didn't ask questions. Just made things work. Lena felt a chill crawl up her arms. Who? Aaron looked up. Dale Branner. Asterisk, asterisk Branner. Had no social security number for the past 10 years. Oh! Permanent address. No medical records since 2012. But in the background, there were traces of land lease here, a shipping receipt there, gun license expired in Idaho, a partial. Fingerprint was pulled from the plastic packaging around one of the flash drives. It matched the print on file for Branner, and then came the break. A receipt from a feed store in Chester. 2 counties north, 6 cans of propane. It's purchased 3 days ago. Paid in cash. Surveillance showed a man in a camo jacket in green. His army hat, beard, glasses, no visible tattoos. Dale Branner, still moving, still hiding. Asterisk, asterisk, the task force called in the FBI full-time. Branner was now classified as a Level 1 fugitive armed, trained in wilderness survival, and suspected in the aiding and concealment of multiple child abductions. A warrant was issued. Roadblocks were authorized. Anonymous tip lines reactivated. But catching him would not be easy. Branner knew the woods, and more importantly, he knew how not to be found. Asterisk, asterisk that night. Maya Desai woke up screaming. She hadn't spoken in days, but now, in a blind panic, she repeated one word over and over, builder. Her nurse called Lena. Lena came running. By the time she got there, Maya was curled in a corner of her room, trembling. He watched, she whispered, watched what? When Mark left, the builder stayed, just stood there. Never blinked, just watched. Lena knelt beside her. Watched what, Maya? The door. She shuddered. He was waiting to see if we'd try to run. Back in the war room. Ruiz stood staring at the printed list of code names from the flash drive. He noticed something he hadn't before. The first four were dated. Gurlar 1 camp entry, 201-40710. Gurlar to transfer Zebi, 201-40901. Gurlar 3 transfer Zezi, the 3rd of November 2014. Gurlar for Zia. Hold, the 15th of January 2015, but below that more names. Gurlar 5, pending. Gurlar 6, observed. Gurlar 7. Target ACQ. The dates were blank, but one line was filled in. R7MB Sierra Pines. Visit PND and GM.B. Ruiz. His hands clenched. That wasn't one of the four. That was a fifth girl, one they hadn't known about. And if this draft was real, Branner wasn't just hiding. He was still hunting. The girl's name was Marissa Blake. Age 13. Home, Nevada City, California. Last known status, active camper at Sierra Pines in the summer of 2015. She had not been reported missing, not officially. Ruiz stared at the name on the document. Then opened the 2015 Sierra Pines roster. There she was. Entry date, July 5th. Cabin 4. Departed August 1st. No reported incident.
Ow.
No police contact. No follow-up. A perfect ghost. But the log from the flash drive said otherwise. R7MB Sierra. Pines visit pending. Pending meant target not yet taken. But acquired was another story. He flipped back to the entry. Target acquired. No date. No confirmation, but that line meant something, because Mark Calloway hadn't returned to Sierra. After 2014, that meant someone else had, and that someone was Dale Branner, *** Mendoza, traced the camp's staff list from that summer, cross-referenced it with employment records. Maintenance workers, contractors, food suppliers. Background checks had cleared them at the time. This time she dug deeper, and there it was. One seasonal maintenance temp, no verified ID, paid in cash under the name G. Reynolds. Fake name, no social media, no references, no license photo. But there was a work permit. Copy scanned and emailed by the camp's former admin. She pulled it up on the monitor. Grainy, but the face was unmistakable. Branner. He'd worked at the camp for 3 weeks in 2015, and the girl he marked, Marissa. Blake had never even known she was a target. ***, they pulled Marissa's school file next. Still enrolled. Grade 10. Honors program. Soccer team. Ruiz exhaled. Relief first, then panic. She's still out there, he said. But he didn't stop watching. They notified her parents within the hour. The FBI team met with the Blakes at their home in a quiet cul-de-sac surrounded by pine and granite. The parents were stunned, then terrified. Marissa was safe for now. She had no idea who Mark Calloway was. Didn't remember Dale Branner. But when they showed her a photo of the man in the army cap, her face went blank. I think he cleaned the pool once, she said. That was all it took. Marissa was placed under 24/7's protection. A tracker, guard rotation, anonymous school registration. She was now considered a Category 1 protective asset, because if Branner had moved from building bunkers to choosing targets alone, he hadn't stopped. He was still operating. *** at the trauma. Senta Lena brought a box of colored pencils to Maya's room. Do you want to draw? She asked gently. Maya didn't speak, but she took the box. An hour later, Lena returned. The sketch was on the floor. It showed a man in a wide-brimmed hat standing beside a white truck, a cabin behind him. Something in his hand, a camera. But it wasn't pointed at her. It was pointed at another girl, someone in the distance. Maya had drawn her watching someone, and in the margin, the smallest letters Lena had ever seen. She wore a pink hoodie. It said Sierra Pines 2015. ***. Meanwhile, in the mountains outside Chester, a man named Dean Rickards ran a survivalist YouTube channel with 14,000 subscribers. He'd recently posted a video on booby traps, the kind made with fishing, wire, and spring-tensioned shotgun shells. 2 days later, the FBI knocked on his door. You know this man? They asked, showing Branner's photo. Dean shrugged. Sure calls himself Uncle Dale. Comes by once a month for trade. Trade what? Dean blinked. Blueprints. Schematic stuff. Said he used to work demolition for a mining company. Showed him a second photo, one from Zone CA. Trap rig that used friction matches and bleach canisters. Dean paled. Yeah, that's his design. Asterisk, asterisk. They traced the trade location, an abandoned gas station 10 miles into the woods. When the team arrived, it was empty, but behind the counter, tucked inside a fireproof envelope taped under a drawer, was a note. I know you're looking. You're not ready. In a USB drive, asterisk, asterisk, the files were encrypted, but the FBI cracked them within 24 hours. Inside, diagrams, floor plans, materials lists, but not for a bunker, for a school bus, a retrofitted one, stripped inside, reinforced floor, no windows. Rigged. With a ventilation system and bolted steel doors, the file was named Phase 3 Mobile Capsule. Asterisk, asterisk. This isn't a static prison anymore, Mendoza said. It's portable. Ruiz turned pale. You're saying he could take them and just keep driving? She nodded. Double quotes park. Lock. Vanish. Move again. No need for zones. No need for cabins. Pulled up a schematic labeled interior grid. There were 2 beds, 1 bucket, and a hidden compartment. Ruiz whispered, he's building a mobile bunker. Asterisk, asterisk. The call came in 2 days later, from a toll booth camera outside Susanville. A vehicle matching the retrofitted school bus, painted beige with forestry decals, had passed through headed south. Timestamp 3:17. A.M. Driver, male, beard, hat passenger. Unknown. Window tinted Branner. Branner. On the move, asterisk, asterisk. They issued an Amber Alert, not for a specific child, but for a threat vehicle. All patrols, all counties, all borders. But the bus didn't reappear. Not on traffic cams, not at gas stations, not at way dash-ins. It had vanished somewhere in the mountains, with room for 2, asterisk, asterisk, back in the trauma center. Chloe Moore broke her silence again. She was looking out the window, watching a delivery truck park across the street. Uncle Dale liked school buses, she said quietly. Lena looked up. He told you that? He said kids trusted buses? She paused, even when they shouldn't. The Sierra foothills stretched out like a broken map, dirt roads twisting into pines, logging trails that didn't appear on any GPS, ghost towns swallowed by trees. The storm had passed, but the air still felt heavy, like the sky hadn't made up its mind. They had a threat, they had a vehicle, they had a name, but they didn't have a location. Branner had disappeared again. The retrofitted school. Bus now codenamed the capsule had gone dark. The last confirmed sighting was over 48 hours old. The trail was cold, but Ruiz knew. Something others didn't. He knew Branner couldn't stop, because predators like him never did. Asterisk, asterisk. He reviewed everything. Hundreds of hours of body cam footage, interviews with girls, the coded flash drive. Ruiz went back to one thing, an old sketch Maya had drawn. The cabin, the truck, the camera, but the angle of the scene was off. Like it wasn't drawn from memory, it was drawn from observation. Where were you when you saw this? He asked her gently. In the therapy room. Maya didn't speak at first. Then she pointed to a dot on a laminated map. Not a road. Not a way. Cabin, a fire tower. One that had collapsed in a storm. 10 years earlier. Asterisk, asterisk. They hiked it by dawn. The remains of the tower looked like a pile of rusted scaffolding, collapsed stairs, cracked footings, boards blackened by time and lightning. But under the base of the fallen structure, there was a concrete slab, and beneath that a rusted hatch sealed, but not locked. Inside, a narrow stair, old power line cables still dangling, no fresh signs of life. Psst, no food, no prints. But something was there, a smell, gasoline, and inside, a rotting storage locker. A book, a spiral notebook, water dash damaged, but partially intact. The first page read, R8 Assessment, Qualities of Compliance. They weren't just keeping logs anymore. They were writing training manuals. Asterisk, asterisk inside. The book were columns, initials, ages, camps, symbols for behavior. R1. Claire W. Early compliant, withdrawn, threatened others in defense. R2. Chloe M. Passive, obedient, mimics tone.
Oh.
Needs less correction. R3. Juliet B. Delayed resistance, fears solitude. R4. Maya D. High resistance, surveillance risk, not suitable for rotation. R5. MB. Target identified, camper, athletic, predictable routine. R6. NF. Observation complete, relocation required. R7. Blank, R8. Prospect location, fire basin route, marked for capture. They were up. 2-8. Possibly more, and 2 of them weren't even in the database yet. NFR8. Asterisk, asterisk, someone else is helping, Mendoza said, voice hollow. No, Ruiz replied. Someone else is learning. Asterisk, asterisk. They checked shipping records next. Solar panels, water filters, lithium batteries. Orders placed under aliases. Shipped 2 drop points in 3 counties. 1 stood out. A package delivered 6 days ago to a P.O. box in Lasan County. The name used. Nora Flint.N.F. They pulled the address. It belonged to a schoolteacher, retired deceased 2 years ago, but the box was still active, and the security cam caught something. A woman, maybe mid-30s. Ball cap glasses, no clear ID she took. The package and left in a white van tag. Temp plate. Expired. But the van had something odd on the side. A magnet panel, it read. Caring Paws, Mobile Animal Rescue. A fake rescue group. A perfect cover. And Branner's new accomplice. Asterisk. Asterisk. Ruiz called an emergency meeting with the FBI. We're not just looking for a predator, he said. We're looking at a program, a method, an ideology. He clicked through. The slides. One man builds the system. Another maintains it. A new recruit studies it, and a target is acquired. This is no longer just about for missing girls, Ruiz said. It's about replication. The room went silent, then the director spoke. Get ahead of it, she said, before R8 disappears. Asterisk, asterisk, Lena Moore was. With Chloe, when the second warning came, Chloe was working with her therapist when she suddenly stopped coloring and said, Don't trust the lady with the animals. Lena looked up. What do you mean? She came once, Chloe said, to the cabin, with rabbits in the van. Lena's blood froze. She told Mark he was doing good work. Did she give her name? Chloe nodded. Miss Nora. Asterisk. Asterisk Ann. Alert went out across all counties. Watch for the white van. Magnetic logo. Caring Paws Rescue. Driver may be female, mid-30s. Approach with extreme caution. Suspect may be targeting R8 unidentified juvenile. Asterisk. Asterisk. The next sighting came from a state trooper outside Greenville. The van had passed by on a gravel road near a logging site. No violations, no license plate, but the trooper remembered the eyes. I waved. She didn't wave back, just stared. When he ran the image later and saw the alert, he reported it. FBI teams were in Greenville within 2 hours. Too late, the van was gone, but they found something left behind in a dumpster. A rabbit cage and a pair of pink kid sunglasses. Asterisk, asterisk, back at the trauma center. Juliet finally spoke up. She hadn't said much in weeks, but when she heard the others talking about the new woman, she sat upright in bed. She was there, she whispered. She came down the hatch once. Which hatch? Her nurse asked. Zone C. She brought vitamins and told Maya to eat more. The nurse blinked. Did she say who she was? No, but Mark said something to her. What? Juliet looked down. He called her the recruiter. It wasn't just abduction anymore. It wasn't just survival. It was recruitment, replication, expansion, and they were running out of time. The task force met in a sealed room beneath the Sacramento field office. Every major law enforcement and intelligence unit was represented, FBI, state troopers, cybercrimes, missing persons, psychological profiling, wilderness survival experts, even to retired Army intelligence officers. On the board, Ruiz circled 3 names in red: Mark Calloway, Dale Brenner, Nora Flint. Each had played a different role. Mark, the origin, the cultist with control issues and a delusion about rebuilding society. Branner, the engineer, silent, obedient, brutal. And now Nora, the recruiter, intelligent, mobile, and dangerous. But what worried Ruiz most was the shift. "We assumed these were isolated incidents," he said. "The evidence suggests they're creating something larger, a system, sustainable model for acquisition, indoctrination, and concealment." He turned to the projector screen. Phase 3 wasn't just mobile. It was modular, portable, scalable. Mendoza clicked to the next slide. A map with pin clusters. Every confirmed sighting. Every recovered bunker. Every drop point they were forming. A loop. A migration circuit. Asterisk, asterisk, she's not just picking up kids randomly, Mendoza added. She's testing routes. Seeing what works. What avoids law enforcement. What towns don't ask questions. Safe zones, Ruiz said. Like a wild animal tracking territory. Then he pointed to the center of the loop. A dead zone on the map. National forest land. Uninhabited. No cell signal. No regular patrol. It was called Keno Ridge. 1 dirt road in. None paved. Weather-prone. Sparse infrastructure. And according to the Bureau of Land Management, a series of decommissioned ranger cabins were still standing. No power, no plumbing, but solid structure. A perfect holding site. Asterisk, asterisk. They launched the raid at dawn. 3 teams, 17 officers. A tactical drone overwatch. And 1 embedded tracker planted on a similar rabbit cage found in Nora's last known drop point. That tracker had pinged at the edge of Keno Ridge once, then gone dark. But it was enough. As the sun rose over the ridge, the convoy moved in. Blacked-out SUVs crawling over gravel, radios low, weapons live, and then they saw it just past. A ridge crest, hidden behind a thicket of oak and fir. A white van. No plate. 1 busted taillight. Magnetic Caring Paws logo. Flapping on the side in the wind. The driver door was open, but no one was inside. Not in the van, not on the road. The team split into search pairs. Toward the cabin, toward the woods. Ruiz and Mendoza took the high slope. They reached the cabin within minutes. It was empty. 1 cot. A solar lamp. 2 empty crates. And something scratched into the back of the door. R8 delivered. Reset underway. Asterisk, asterisk, they found the girl 6 hours later, deep in a ravine. Curled in a hollow beneath a fallen tree, she was wearing a pink coat, dirt-streaked, shivering. No. Shoes. She was 9. Her name was Emily Jensen, reported missing 4 days earlier, taken during a roadside stop with her aunt, who'd stepped away for a moment to grab coffee. The Amber Alert had gone out statewide, failed to catch traction. Emily hadn't been listed as a match until now, but she was. R8, and she was alive. Barely asterisk back. At the trauma center, Lena sat beside Maya, reading Emily's intake file in silence. She was alone for 2 days, Lena whispered. They left her in the cabin, said they'd be back. Maya didn't speak, but she pulled her knees to her chest. Lena watched her. Carefully, he called it the reset, right? She asked. Mark? Maya nodded slowly. What does that mean? Maya looked out the window, then whispered. Start again. New girl, new plan, new rules. Lena felt her breath freeze in. Her chest. Was Nora in charge now? Maya said nothing, just closed her eyes. But the answer was clear. Asterisk, asterisk later that week. The FBI released a new threat bulletin. Wanted. Nora Flint charges. Child abduction. Criminal conspiracy. Manufacturing of captive transport units. Last seen, Keno. Ridge. Vehicle abandoned. Accomplice presumed at large. Warning, suspect may be armed. Tactical awareness confirmed. Do not approach. The bulletin circulated nationally, but Nora was gone. In the weeks that followed. The girls began talking more. Juliet started sleeping through the night. Chloe joined a group therapy circle. Claire asked for real clothes, not hospital gowns. Maya began drawing faces again, and Emily asked for pancakes. It was a start, but Ruiz knew better. The danger wasn't over, because the system Nora helped create was now reproducible. The files recovered from the Kino Ridge cabin blueprints. Behavior charts, hard drives, sedative recipes were copied and labeled, ready for shipment, for someone else, somewhere to begin again. One afternoon, Mendoza stepped into Ruiz's office, holding a printout. This came from a dark web intercept. She said it was a chat log, encrypted. One line in particular stood out. Reset successful. New soil, new seed. Let it grow. A reply. When will you harvest? No names. No locations. No traceable IP. But a new term emerged. Harvest. It wasn't just about taking girls anymore. It was about using them. Ruiz leaned back in his chair, staring at the screen. This was never about survival, he said. It's a belief system. Winter came early that year. By the first week of November, the Sierra peaks were dusted with white, the roads slick with frost. At night, the forests grew silent in a way that didn't feel peaceful. It felt watchful. Like the trees were waiting. The kind of waiting Ruiz had come to recognize. 3 weeks had passed since they found Emily Jensen in the ravine. She was recovering. Slowly, her therapist said she was stabilizing faster than expected. As if her mind hadn't had time to collapse under the weight of what happened, but Ruiz knew better. Sometimes trauma didn't scream, sometimes it just waited. Back. At the trauma center, Lena stood in the common room doorway, watching all 5 girls play an improvised board game made of index cards and bottle caps. Chloe laughed when Maya cheated. Juliet threw a card in mock protest. Claire pretended to be the referee. Emily sat apart but watched. Smiling, Lena blinked back tears. Not because they were healed, but because they were. Still fighting, and they weren't alone anymore. Downstairs, Mendoza brought Ruiz a folder. Will, want to see this? It was from Interpol. An unusual report? A child's abduction in northern Quebec. A remote village. Girl taken during a power outage. No forced entry. No witnesses. But left behind was a note, just one word. Reset. Same handwriting as the bunker logs, and even stranger. A coded phrase intercepted on a secure network 2 days later, traced back to a forum once linked to extremist wilderness groups. Seed planted, harvest scheduled. Phase 4 underway. Wasn't over. It had never been just about California. We missed it, Mendoza said. This wasn't an isolated ring. It was a pilot program. Ruiz rubbed his hands over his face. It's global now, or always was. She dropped another file onto the desk. 3 similar cases. Oregon, Wyoming, northern Spain, all. In remote areas, all involving isolated children. All with no demands for ransom, no motives. No patterns that made sense until now. And then the most chilling part. All locations showed signs of temporary occupation. Like someone had tested the soil, then moved on. Back in Sacramento, a hearing was called. Federal agents, state reps victim, advocacy leaders, tech firms, all gathered in the shadow of one simple truth. This was bigger than one man, bigger than Calloway, bigger than Branner, bigger than Nora Flint. This was a movement, a new kind of criminality, rooted in backwoods ideology. Fueled by survivalist extremism, predator psychology, and digital anonymity. No logos, no manifestos. No claims, just a silent, spreading system designed to abduct, reprogram, and recycle human lives in the name of purity and reset. And it was still growing. On the drive home from the hearing. Lena pulled over to the side of the road just outside Sierra Pines. The camp had been closed for nearly 2 years, but the gates still stood, rusted, overgrown. She got out. Walked 2. The signpost, a carving, was still visible in the wood, half faded by sun and rain. "Find yourself here." She stared at it a long time, then turned away, because what they found in those woods was something no one had prepared for. Back at the trauma center. Claire asked Lena if she could go outside alone. It was the first time she'd asked. Lena hesitated, then nodded. Claire stepped into the garden. The air was cold, and her breath clouded in front of her. She reached the end of the path, sat on the bench, and for the first time in 2 years, she didn't look behind her. In a cabin 3 states away, a man scrolled through a terminal screen, lit only by the glow of a satellite modem. He wore gloves. Every file was encrypted, hidden behind layers of code and false addresses. He clicked into a folder labeled Sprout. Inside, photos of schoolyards, soccer games, bus stops, children, unaware, AA. Blinking cursor waited below one image. He typed, "Candidate R9 identified. Suitability pending." Then he shut the laptop, stepped into the darkness, and disappeared into the trees. Ruiz stood on the edge of Zone A, where it all started. The first bunker, the first girl, the first silence that stretched too long. Now, it was being sealed, condemned. He stepped back, looked up at the trees. They weren't just victims, he said quietly. Mendoza stood beside him. They were witnesses. To what? Returned to the start of something the world hasn't seen yet. They stared out into the forest, where wind moved the branches like whispers, not peace, not even closure, but warning, and maybe, just maybe, a vow that someone would always be watching now, just like he had, only this time not to trap, to protect.